Welcome to the Personal Trainer Hustle. Personal Trainer Hustle. If you didn't know, you do now.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the Personal Trainer Hustle. Today's episode, we've got a question from a listener. So today's episode is a Q&A episode, and this is an interesting one. This one was sent in by someone who has been a physical therapist for many years. So this is going to be interesting coming from a physical therapy background. But I think a lot of personal trainers that don't have that background are also going to benefit a lot from thinking about these things in a different way. So today's episode is going to be that. Today's question, I was going to say, was sent in by Jennifer Medley. So we're going to get into her question. If you guys have your own questions, send them in to personaltrainerhustle.com. I've got a couple of questions in the queue here that we're going to go over. So if you guys sent in your questions, just know I've got those in the queue. We're going to be getting into those soon. But that's at personaltrainerhustle.com. You can go and send in your question, and I'll always do my best to answer it on an episode here. So today's question, though, Jennifer Medley. Jennifer says, I have been a physical therapist assistant for over 20 years. I have been a CPT for 6 months. I just took the leap of faith and quit my full-time job as a physical therapist to focus on my personal training. My question is, do you have any suggestions on how to market myself with my physical therapy background? Okay. There's a lot to discuss here. I have a few points, a few notes, but also just ideas, really some opinions that I think a lot of you guys should, hear out and listen to and consider as personal training. So we're going to get into a couple of things here. I personally think that coming from a background of being a physical therapist is a great tool to have. It is going to make you a lot more powerful in your training in certain areas. Okay. And the reason I say that is because I myself, in the years that I have hired trainers, have struggled with one thing. Most trainers struggle in this one area of their training, and that is the area of regression, the area of being able to train people that are beginners. Most personal trainers have a one-track mind, and that mind is that most trainers know how to make things more difficult, and most trainers enjoy the process of progress, right? The process of being creative, the process of having showmanship in their training. I know this because I fell into it. When I was a new trainer, I had gotten certified. I knew my muscle groups. I knew my movement patterns. I knew the planes of motion, modes of progression and regression, types of strength. I knew a lot of information, but when I became a trainer, I started to just come up with cool looking workouts. That's all that I cared about. And when I looked back at one point, when I realized I was struggling to build a career in training, I realized my training is not making sense. I'm not using any of the science. I'm not thinking about muscles. I'm not thinking about movement patterns. I'm not thinking about planes of motion. I'm not thinking about types of strength. I'm not thinking about techniques. I'm not thinking about how to make things easier for this person. All I was thinking about was, how do I make this workout fun, active, cool, difficult for this individual? And I was really leaving a lot on the table. I was really minimizing the amount of people that I could reach, because the reality is that most people that can do everything, that already know how to weightlift, already know how to do these moves, most of those people are not hiring personal trainers. Most people, at least in my personal experience, maybe it's because my gym caters to these type of people, right? There's gyms for everyone. There's gyms for advanced people. There's gyms for beginners. But I have built a business around mostly beginners, mostly people that are intimidated by that type of training. What they're looking for is something that's more catered to where they are in their fitness, and they can't seem to find it because everywhere they look, they see a bunch of people with their shirts off doing power cleans, running sprints, and they know that they can't do that. And now that's not to say that the trainer might not be able to get them there, but that's not what they're seeing. So that's not what they're believing. So what they're believing is that if I show up, they're going to destroy me. And I'm not ready for that. I haven't worked out in many years. I have this injury. I have, whatever, this concern, this limitation. And they're worried that that trainer's not going to have an understanding. So going back to what I was opening up today's episode with, I have struggled with hiring trainers who can actually work with beginners because a lot of trainers, not everybody, but a lot of personal trainers don't have a deeper understanding of movement, a deeper understanding of muscles, a deeper understanding of range of motion, a deeper understanding of putting workouts together that lead towards progress in a very fundamental, basic way, right? Most trainers start from a squat. They don't know what to do when the client doesn't know how to squat, right? Most trainers assume that the person can keep their heart rate up. They don't know what to do when that person is unable to keep their heart rate up without getting dizzy, without wanting to throw up, without getting nauseous, right? Without getting lightheaded. So most trainers, unfortunately, that's one of the reasons why I enjoy having this podcast, even though we don't normally talk about fitness itself. The reality is that most people struggle with understanding fundamentals, right? And most trainers are taught only to think about fitness from the perspective of pushing someone so that they get results, right? And we only think of results as getting more muscle or losing fat. That's like the only results that trainers think about. But there is a huge portion of the population that the results for them is to be able to walk upright a little bit better. The results for them is to be able to jog a 5K. It's not about how much they weigh when they jog it. It's not about how lean they are when they jog it, but simply the accomplishment of being in better physical shape and being able to move and being able to accomplish something. That is their goal. And so a lot of trainers don't think that there are a lot of people who simply want to make improvements in their movement, in their posture, moving pain free. A lot of people just want to learn how to work out. And so they're looking for instructors that can be patient and can move slowly and can show them how fitness actually works and what movements actually help them as an individual. Because there are so few trainers that do that, I have always struggled with even being able to find trainers that can do that. Most trainers can push people, most trainers cannot think in more simple terms. And so I have had to do some work, and nowadays I give a lot of credit to Sean. Sean does a lot of this work with the trainers. He's the one showing people how to make regressions, not progressions, even though progressions can also be difficult for a lot of people, I have come to find out. But a lot of people struggle with regressions, right? A lot of trainers come in and they're like, oh, I'm ready to train. I'm certified. I know how to do this. I squat this much. I do this. And then I present to them, a 70-year-old client with a limp. And they are just, I have no idea what to do now, right? So either they go too easy because they're too scared, or they go way too hard because they have no idea how to tune certain things back. Again, because of the lack of awareness of range of motion, movement patterns, and musculature, and understanding like origin, insertion, right? And you as a physical therapist, right? Because there's going to be trainers that maybe haven't even understood this, that are training and listening to this right now, but like your understanding of like origin of a muscle, insertion of a muscle, understanding the length of muscles, the power that some muscles have and some don't, right? Like something that I think about is size of muscles and their capacity to do movement, right? So sometimes people don't think that like what you curl is different than when you row, simply because of muscle lengths of and muscle, the ability for a muscle to perform that type of movement, angles, right? Whether a muscle has like a hinge type of a, what do we call it, like a nub, to where usually, man, how do I get into this? There's a reason why a bicep curl is usually harder than a tricep, and it has to do with like the pivot point of your elbow, right? So anyway, I'm saying that all to say a personal trainer should look to know more about those things. in order to be a better trainer for more clients, because it's going to be more helpful. And what I'm saying to you, as someone who has come from physical therapy, is that that is a great, great tool to have in your back pocket. Now, the only difficulty might be in your ability to actually progress people further. So, what I have found sometimes with physical therapists is they keep people on bands way too long, right? So, I'm also going to give you some things to be aware of. I already gave you a lot of credit. Having that knowledge that you have is super good, right? It's like really good for you to have. It's going to help you a lot be able it's going to help you be able to tap into certain markets that most trainers can't. Um and so you don't have as much competition in that sense, but at the same time you have to be careful, because one thing that I have found is that when someone is very knowledgeable about movement patterns, is very knowledgeable about regressions, sometimes you end up struggling with progressions, right? I have met trainers that come from this background that are afraid to put a bar on someone's back, right? They're afraid to do a 5x5 type of a program with someone because it's heavier, because it's more technical, right? So we don't know when to move further or when to get comfortable with a lot of other gym equipment. So there's always, always something for trainers to be improving on or learning about in the gym, right? Just like a lot of trainers feel comfortable with the bar, but they don't feel comfortable doing rehabilitation exercises. A lot of rehabilitation exercise people do not know how to bridge that gap into the weight room. But if you can have an understanding of how somebody goes from learning how to move better to building stability to building mobility to then building strength, power, output, right? That whole thing, that is what all trainers should be striving to do, um, because you win all around, right? You're going to win because you can help more people. And that's really it. Like, you can help more people by having more knowledge, so you don't have to miss out on opportunities. Let's say you guys work at a gym or you get a referral of some kind. If you don't have the tools that that person needs for you to have, you're going to miss that client, right? You're going to miss out on clients. So that's the other thing. Not only are you more capable of helping more people, but that in turn will lead to you being able to capture more clients and keep more clients long term. Because if you can get a client that is having trouble walking, let's say, and you can build them over years to somebody who can do a back squat with a barbell or more weight, you have got a client from beginning to end, right? This is years of clientele. But if you need somebody else to do that job and then you take them from where they can move well, now you only get them for half the process, right? So there's a lot to learn here, but I'm kind of saying people with physical therapy backgrounds, you can have a certain advantage if you play your cards right and if you lean into it. So, um, I have a couple of notes here. I don't know if I have them in any type of order. I just wrote it down. But your question was how to market yourself, right? Let me double check your question here. My question is, do you have any suggestions on how to market myself at the physical therapy? Absolutely. Okay. So, number one, how can you market yourself? Well, you can take one of two angles. So, we're going to cover those first. One thing you can do is talk about the limitations that physical therapy has, right? And so you can begin to market yourself as the physical therapist that also can take you beyond what those physical therapists kind of leave on the table, right? And how do I know this? Because at my gym, I have worked and my trainers work with people. This is kind of a crazy story, right? But like, and Sean can attest to this. He listens to this and he knows this is true. So what I'm saying is absolutely 100% what has happened in the gym. We have had multiple people that are going to a physical therapist, but are looking for something more. They feel like something's missing, either the service, right? The actual like experience. Sometimes they feel like they're being held back. Sometimes they feel like there's an inconsistency there. Sometimes they feel like they want to do something else and it's not coming together, right? So what has happened is people, even though they're with a physical therapist, they're looking for a different option. And what we have found is that, and this is the story I wanted to say, we have had a few people that once they start working with us, they want to quit their physical therapy, right? Because they realize that there is a little bit more that they want out of their movement, right? Physical therapy is more about getting that movement back, but sometimes it doesn't go long enough to get actual strength back, right? So sometimes people say, well, I got cleared from my physical therapist, but I still can't really walk up the stairs comfortably, right? They cleared me because I can move, I can walk, but I can't go upstairs. I used to be able to go upstairs before, right? And then after my accident, I couldn't walk very well. My physical therapist helped me get back to walking, but I still am not strong enough to walk upstairs, to carry things, to play sports. So people feel, and I'm just talking from experience, not this isn't like a statistical fact here, but from experience, from being a trainer for so many years, from having my own training gym as well, from having my own trainers. Sean knows this. He's the manager at Logic now. He knows this. Once people come in and they train with a good trainer, this is also for my staff if they're listening. This is why it's so important to be well rounded. When you're a good enough trainer, you can bridge that gap, and people that had a physical therapist might actually want to quit the therapy because this is not crazy hard, but it's definitely leading more to what their actual goal is, which is they want their life back. They want their strength back. They want their lifestyle. They want to be able to play sports. They want to be able to go upstairs. They want to be able to, build their body back up, right? They want to be able to squat again. And sure, physical therapy helped, but they still don't know what to do to get back to running 5Ks, doing whatever sport they were doing, playing soccer, playing basketball. There's a gap there. So what I'm saying is you can play into that gap because you have the therapy. You can speak to what is missing and what you as a personal trainer are looking to bridge the gap for, right? So you can say, hey, as an experience, right? Because I'm assuming that you're making marketing content, right? Because that would be my number one suggestion is you got to make flyers, you got to make videos, you got to make content, you got to do something, right? So use this in whatever avenue you want to use, but the idea is you need to speak to the fact that you're trying to take people from what you know you can do and take them beyond that, and you can almost tease at personal trainers that can't do that. They don't have that ability, right? So you can say something like, personal trainers, they're going to have you doing battle ropes and burpees. You need a personal trainer that knows how to bridge that gap, right? Also, but sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. But what I was saying is you can speak to people who are in those same shoes, right? So part of marketing is, and I just talked to Sean about this on the phone yesterday. Part of marketing, part of making a video, an ad, right? Because that's what we were talking about with Sean, making ads. And he was asking me, how do you put these scripts together? And one of the elements was I need to have a problem that is being solved for that individual. And I need to have that individual in mind. So when you're putting content out there, you have to first decide who is it that I can help the best, right? Do I want to market myself as a physical therapist? Well, these people already have a physical therapist. Do I want to market myself as a personal trainer? Well, there's a lot of personal trainers. So then, should I market myself as the step right after physical therapy, but right before personal training? So you can market yourself and say, hey, this is what physical therapy does for you, but this is where they're missing the mark. And I know that from experience. And that's why I want to fix that area for you. Right now, the trick here is you do have to have a program that bridges that gap for them, because you can't just market something that isn't true. So as a trainer, you can kind of find your niche there if you wanted to, because at that point, now you know where your target audience is, right? You can go to those same physical therapy places. You can go to, or you can create ads for people that are recovering from injuries, things like that. And you can market yourself because now you're not competition with physical therapists. You can say physical therapy, you can go to physical therapists and say, hey, I want to leave this here. I'm a personal trainer that can help them after they're done with you. But I'm not just any trainer, because I am a physical therapist turned trainer. So you can use that and actually go to physical therapy offices or physical therapy gyms and say, hey, I understand you guys work under insurance, a lot of you, and you have 4 sessions, 8 sessions. But for those people that are graduating, I would like to be their trainer because I feel like they're going to be safer with me because I am a physical therapist. But I want to bridge that gap between that and them going to any old trainer or them joining a gym or exercising on their own where it can be dangerous. I want to insert myself in that space between physical therapist and the gym. And so now you know your audience, but you also can connect with physical therapy places and let them know, hey, I'm not here to be a physical therapist. I'm here to bridge the gap. And you may be able to do that with gyms, but you can also go maybe to senior centers. That's actually one of my next points. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But just some ideas there, right? How do you start marketing yourself? Well, you can market yourself as the space between. Um, another angle you can take, I would say, is to take the angle of this is what personal trainers can't do for you. So I almost said that earlier, but I wanted to make sure I had a separate note for that. So another thing you can do is, hey, personal trainers usually do this. The reality is you're not there yet. So I am so and so with this much physical therapy experience. And what I have noticed is that trainers usually go too hard on their clients. I believe in a better method. And then, boom, again, you put yourself between physical therapy and being a personal trainer. Now, everything I'm saying, you can throw it out the door if you just want to do the personal training, right? But your question was, I think, kind of how do you use that as an advantage now that you're going into personal training? So I hope that I can kind of give you some ideas in that space. But the answer for me is almost in the question, right? The answer is in the question. The question is, how do I bridge the gap from being a physical therapist to being a trainer? And how do I use that? Well, okay, you just said you're bridging the gap. Well, you didn't really say this, but I'm just paraphrasing. I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth here. But the way I see it, how about that? The way I see it, you're bridging the gap from physical therapy to personal training in your own life. So you can just brand yourself as the trainer that bridges the gap between physical therapy and training. You can just do that, right? And then once they train with you, they'll just be your client because you with your physical therapy, with your personal training certification, you can keep going with them. You can just improving them, keep improving them, and as long as they keep improving, then they're just going to be a client, right? When people stop improving or when they stop enjoying their experience is when they stop coming in. Don't let them tell you anything else. Either they feel like you're not paying attention or they feel like they're not progressing anymore. That's usually how it goes. And again, like I said, it's not just about weight loss or muscle, it's about just progressing in some area. Are you bench pressing more? Are you recovering less? Are you more flexible? Are you squatting low? Can you squat for more reps? Right? Whatever it is my movement getting more complicated? Progress, progress, progress. If you can make progress with someone, they will want to keep working with you. So you can place yourself in those categories, just some things to think about. You can bridge the gap and you can choose to talk about where physical therapy is lacking and how you fix that problem for people, or where personal training is lacking and how you fix that problem for people. I know this from experience because I have that on our website as well, right? We have what we call a post rehabilitation program, meaning that people, after they've done rehab, this is the post rehab, they come in. And again, everything I talked about before is exactly what they talk about. I have this issue, I have this concern, I have this limitation, but I want to get a trainer. It seems here like you're somebody that can help me. And we say, yes, let me see your movement, blah, 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 blah. And we use our knowledge of movement, of musculature, range of motion, of movement patterns, all of those things. We use that knowledge to start them off where they are, right? So I guess that's another thing that you can make sure that you add to your information, right? One of the things that people really want to understand, and this is for all trainers, this is why I've talked about the consultation so much with you guys. People don't go from I don't know you to I'm going to sign up with you. There's a step in between. And that step is they want to feel you out. They want to see if you listen. They want to see if you have the tools. They want to see if this is really what they want to spend their money on. What you need to do then is really sell that assessment, that consultation, and why that is so important and why you do it in the way that you do it. So another thing that you can also add, this was not in my notes, but just something that I came up with, is make sure that you are marketing not just your service as that bridge gapper or a personal trainer with experience or however you want to do it, but make sure that you're letting people know, hey, let me do an assessment with you. Let me do a consultation with you to really see where your fitness is. Because a lot of people that need that like post rehabilitation type of training, they're a little bit on the fence. They want to meet you first, they want to talk to you first. So, what you want to make sure to do, and this is a little bit more advanced, I guess, marketing, but I hope you guys are paying attention because this is for all of you guys. What you guys should be selling with your content, yes, sure, it's the service, it's the benefits, of course, because that's why people become interested. But you also need to remind them that before they make any commitments, just come talk to me. Just set up a consultation. Just let me do an assessment. And also let them know what that assessment and what that consultation is, how they set it up, what we're going to go over, right? A lot of information. This is why it's good to have a website. This is something that I want to do an episode on soon, right? Just talking about websites. Today's not that episode, but I'm just going to kind of drop this here. This is why the website exists, because I can't sell you my services, what I do, how I do it, invite you, tell you the prices, tell you the consultation, how to sign up for a consultation, how long the consultation is, the benefits of the consultation, the benefits of my service, like I said, pricing. And I can't do all that in one social media post. So I need somewhere to, once I get their attention and I say, hey, this is the problem that I'm solving, this is who I am, right? You make a piece of content. When they get curious, that's when they go to the website. And now your website has to tell an even better story. Say, hey, thank you for coming to the website. You must be looking for this type of training and this type of solution. Let me tell you why this solution is important. Let me tell you what's going to happen when you come in for your consultation. And now they have more information. Then they book the consultation. Now you should have a separate system for a good consultation, right? So you have to have your content or your ads or your marketing, whatever it is, right? Flyers. That flyer leads to something that tells them the next story, and then boom, you tell them the next story, right? So it's a process of getting somebody through the whole thing. But I just wanted to mention that remember that you want to really encourage those people that may be interested in what the bridge that you can you know um, kind of close for them, or the gap that you can close for them. Make sure that you're encouraging them to test it out, right? To see for themselves, to feel free to ask you questions, because those type of people, again, I'm kind of harping on this post rehab, because you have that experience, right? So anybody that can do that, I think this would be helpful. Um, just understand that that person that is not 100% in physical therapy, but it's also not 100% ready for like what they perceive as hard training, they're a little bit apprehensive. They're a little bit on the fence. So you have to know that about that customer when you create your content, when you create your videos, when you create your copy for your website, all of that stuff. You need to know how to kind of like talk to that person where they are, right? A lot of us don't think about that. We don't think that person that I'm talking to is afraid of X. They are concerned about Y. They're hesitant because of blank, right? So I need to make sure that I put that out there so they feel comfortable. Because another one of my points here, and that is that, let's say you're not going to really, you could do all of this. This is just another thing that you can kind of think about in your marketing and think about in your personal program, right? Your brand. And that is safety. Safety is one of those things. And for everyone listening to my pod, man, I'm giving you the goods here. Safety is one of those things that people are very concerned about when it comes to joining any gym, any fitness program. People, not everybody, but once you get to a certain age, you become concerned about safety. Once you have a couple of injuries, you become a little worried about safety. I remember a few years ago, I had low back pain, a bit of an injury that I've been dealing with. And I wanted to go to a boxing gym. But the thing I kept worrying about was they're going to make me do the sit-ups and the legs lifts and the mountain climbers and all that stuff. And right now I can't, right? I can stand up and box. I can throw some kicks, but I can't do certain movements. I'm very limited. And I knew that most trainers are not paying attention. Most trainers are not going to ask me. Most of these gyms, especially around, that boxing culture. I'm not saying everybody, but that was my fear. I was like, they're not going to have alternatives, right? And I was right with some of the places that I went. Some of the places they don't have alternatives. The trainers, they know how to box. They don't know how to create a regression for the issue that I'm having. They're just going to say keep going or stop or just whatever, right? So if they're good enough, they might say just skip this one. But most trainers aren't really paying that much attention. So I wanted to make sure that I was heard. And I finally went, but I still had that concern. And I said, "Hey man, just so you know, some stuff that I don't do, it's not because I don't want to do it, I don't want to participate. I have this thing going on right now that I'm going through, but I also want to box." So thankfully, they try to accommodate, but it was still weird, right? It was still weird having that hesitation of like, I don't know if these people are going to be concerned with safety, right? Do they have the tools to be safe, right? I saw them, right or wrong. I thought it's probably going to be some young kid who's been boxing his whole life, but has no idea how the body moves, proper range of motion, right? How many reps someone can actually do, right? A lot of people that don't actually have fitness concepts down, they'll say, okay, we're going to do push-ups for 2 minutes. And it's like most people can't do push-ups for 2 minutes unless you're pretty advanced, right? But because they have no concept of what the body can and cannot do, they just ask people to do it because it's just exercise, right? Or sometimes they just keep telling you to do things because that's how they learned it. But when you look at it through the lens of kinesiology, biomechanics, anatomy, you realize that I don't think that's actually safe for your neck, for your back, for your knees, right? So again, I had a concern. I'm just telling all of that story to say, if you, as someone who can, right? Because I'm assuming you're a good physical therapist after 20 years, if you're someone who can accommodate certain people, who can have regressions for certain movements, then that's also something you can lean on, right? And speak to it, right? Because again, when it comes to marketing, you're speaking to what the person is perceiving, right? So you're not going to see somebody that's hurt or somebody that's concerned with safety. But if you know that that's who you can help, when you say it, when you say how you're going to fix something, when you say and talk about in your content the things to watch out for, right? The ways that you help those people, when you put it out there, whether it's a flyer, a piece of content, a conversation, whatever, the person's going to go, that, yeah, that's what I was worried about. So you have to put it out there first. And then when they hear it, they're going to say, that's exactly what I was thinking. That's exactly what I was concerned with. And so when you say, hey, I know a lot of people are worried about joining the gym because of safety, but I am a personal trainer who was a physical therapist for 20 years, and safety is my number one concern. And safety is something that none of my clients should ever worry about, right? I've seen what happens in unsafe workouts, and I don't want to be that type of trainer, or however you phrase it, right? Because I'm just going off the cuff here, right? But once you sit down and actually write a script, write copy down, work on your website, create a flyer, whatever, make a video, whatever you decide to do, um, you got to clean it up and really try to speak to the issue that you're solving for people, which is not fitness, but doing fitness in a safe way, right? As long as you have the ability to provide that, right? Because a lot of trainers, I'm saying this right now, but you guys may not actually have that ability. So you can't use that in your marketing, because if you did and people come in and you have them doing burpees on day one and doing ball slams when they're worried about technique and safety, you're not able to do it, right? So and that's fair game, right? As we talk about marketing, marketing is just about, it's not about being the best. It's not about being the most ripped trainer. It's not about having the biggest following, you guys. It's just about, right? Pay attention here. What is it that you provide that you can lean into that solves a problem for someone. So if you don't have safety to lean into, then you got to leave it to someone else that does. But if you have that in you, you can lean into that, right? But now you're excluding certain people, but you're including these other people. And the reverse is true. If you have a certain style of training, a certain clientele, then don't try to be everything to everyone. Be what you are specifically for the person that wants what you have, right? That's why it's good to have something um, that is yours, right? That's why I tell you, you guys, you don't want to just be a one trick pony type of trainer, right? Because you're going to leave a lot on the table. So if you have different tools, it's going to help you market different angles. And that's not to say that, like, let's say you are marketing to safety and a safer way to work out. It doesn't mean that you don't have the other tools. Maybe you can do headstands, you can do one arm push ups, right? Maybe you have the ability to market to something else, but because you have this, you just have to choose what you're going to lean into and figure out where your market is. And I'll tell you this, when you're new, it's a little bit difficult, like you start very general and then you start figuring out who gravitates to me, who do I gravitate to, what are my clients saying when I train them, why did they sign up, right? That's how we at Logic have fine-tuned our marketing a little bit, and that's something that we still have to get way better at. But to the degree that we've been able to succeed in this area, it's because we listen to people, right? So when someone came in, we'd always ask, what is it that brought you in? What is it? And we learned the reality of the choices that people were making. And they revolved around, oh, I wanted to learn. And you guys talked about teaching. I wanted to do something safe. And I felt like other trainers weren't listening to me, right? I learned, this is what's funny. I learned that proximity is very important, right? And that's something, again, this phone call that I just had with Sean yesterday, I was telling him, I was like, so much of it is about proximity with fitness, and trainers don't think about that. We're trying to sell fitness when really the person is choosing which of the two gyms or which of the two trainers in their zip code they're going to choose. So if you as a trainer know that people make choices based on proximity, then you wouldn't be worried about having a post that has 10,000 likes. You would be worried about, what does somebody that lives near me, what do they need to know? They need to know where I'm at. They need to know that I'm close. They need to know how fast I can get to them. They need to know the city. They need to know the street, whatever it is that I can give them. Obviously, maybe you don't want to market your exact address to everybody if you work from home or something like that. But proximity, I'm sorry to harp on that, but I'm just saying the reason why that stands out to me is because it's something that it had not crossed my mind had it not been for me getting feedback from those clients over the years, over and over, realizing these are the 2, 3, 4 concerns that all these people have. Once I figured that out, I was able to make my marketing even better because I said, this is what I'm going to go after. I'm going to talk to people that are concerned about these handful of things. And then it gets little bit better and we continue the process. I'm going to give you just some words of encouragement here. Figuring out how to market yourself is not always easy. It's not overnight, but you do have to begin moving forward in some area. And that's why I'm giving you different ideas, because you can try them, right? So try the first one we talked about, then try the second one, right? Try the third one, try the safety, and on and on. And eventually you start figuring out, okay, I tried all of these and I really saw that these two don't work at all for me. Cool. Then you lean more into the other ones, and this is the beauty of trying, you're going to learn something new that I can't even imagine right now, right? Right now, where we are right now, starting this business that you're starting for yourself, quitting your job and starting the personal training. Even me on the podcast, I don't know what you're going to learn once you try something. That's the beauty of the work, is you're going to start with the ideas maybe that you already have. Maybe you'll steal some from the podcast today, but really where it all takes off is when you implement them, and then you adapt based on the data that you're getting based on your first trial. And then you adjust and you try something new that you didn't even know that you were going to try. And then based on that, you try something else. And over the years, you fine tune your marketing. You get a lot better. You know what to exclude. You know what to include. You know what tends to work, what doesn't, things like that. Things that right now that nobody can know, right? There are certain things in life, you guys, that you can only know after you've done the work for a year. There's no podcast, there's no book, there's nothing that can teach you how to think, right? Because What you have to learn is how to make certain connections in your brain that lets you look at something and go, I'm going to market it like this, but I'm not going to talk about that, and I'm going to include more women in it. And it just happens. Boom, boom, boom. But it comes from a lot of years of trial and error where you can filter certain things. And I almost say like certain mental brain patterns are created where you just get better at it, right? But right now, when you haven't, you have to just start with something that kind of sounds like a good idea, try it, see it all the way through, and then see what happens and do the process all over again. And I'll tell you, after all these years of being a trainer and after all these years of owning my gym, it's a process I still go through. I'm just a little bit better every year, but it's the same thing. Who are we talking to? What are the type of clients we're getting? What's the thing that we're trying to fix for people? What the thing that makes us different? What's that thing that makes that person click? What is it that we're providing this person that other people like? It's just constantly asking these questions no matter how far along you get. So it's just a way of thinking when you're thinking about your marketing. But just to tie this last thing up with, this point is just remember that safety is something you can lean into usually when you have that first physical therapy background because you're used to doing the smaller movements usually. um, Tied in with safety, a close cousin to safety is working with older adults. Okay, why? Because a lot of older adults sessions look kind of like physical therapy sessions, kind of, not 100%. But a lot of the older people that we work with, again, they don't know where to go because what they see is a bunch of young trainers that are going to kick their butt. So they're looking for something that is safe, right? So that's why I said it's kind of tied together because a lot of people are looking for safety, but older people are definitely not trying to get hurt. They're not trying to fall. And they need the help because they need to exercise in order to be less likely to get injured. But at the same time, they're worried that the very thing that they're joining may be the cause of the injury. And so, marketing to those individuals, letting them know the way that you can train them that is not going to be the thing that they think, you may have a market right then and there. Again, older population is a good market, but here's the thing, you guys, a lot of you guys should not be touching these people. A lot of you guys should not be working with older people. I see it in the gym when I go work out. I see it when I'm trying to hire someone. Most trainers cannot work with older people. Why? Because older people require regressions. Older people don't have full range of motion. Older people have less balance. Older people can't perform certain exercises. So what happens is the trainer actually has to do mental work, and us as trainers, we're not used to that. We don't have the awareness. We're not putting in the work to be able to work with people like that. And so I'm just saying, if you don't have that, don't go for that because you're actually going to make your life a lot harder trying to work with older people when you simply don't have the tools. You should be trying to acquire the tools to open up your market a little bit more for yourself, but don't risk hurting older people or making your life a nightmare trying to go for it just because it's a good market doesn't mean you have the tools to go into that market, you know? So what I would say is while you're becoming a trainer, if you're thinking about that, you should do some corrective exercises. You should do some senior training specializations, right? There's other certifications that you can take in order to start building that knowledge. And once you have it, now you can tap into a new market. But since the person asking this question sent in a question coming in from physical therapy, then I'm assuming that you actually already work with older people a lot of the time, right? Jennifer Medley. I just want to make sure I got your name in here, right? Jennifer, you have the experience, so I'm talking to you. I think that you can work with older people because they need a personal trainer, right? Because a lot of these older people, they're not being sent to physical therapy, right? They're not injured. They're not coming back from a surgery. They don't have, whatever, a frozen shoulder, trigger finger, right? Things that happen to people. They don't have that. They're just older people that want to live a healthier, better, stronger, longer life. But they might be worried about who they work with. You may be the perfect person for them to work with. So just throwing that out there. Um, the last thing I'll say here, something you can read into and think about, and this is actually, so there's a book that made me think about, or your question made me think about a book, which made me think about the first two things that I mentioned today, right? Like you can either put yourself in anti-physical therapy type of a situation, or anti-trainer, or like a, you know, bridge builder. Where did that idea come from? It came from this book called Choose Your Enemies Wisely by Patrick Bet-David. Okay, this is a book that I read earlier this year as we started this year, and I actually implemented this thought process, which worked for me, and now I kind of started by sharing an idea with you, and that is that, you know, and I'm just saying this here at the end so that you can just read it for yourself. It's Choose Your Enemies Wisely. Any of you guys can read this book. Patrick Bet-David, somebody that I followed for a long time, especially around the entrepreneurship. He did a lot of videos around entrepreneurship and then wrote some books. Both of the books that he's written up until now, I think that all of you guys should read. Um, Actually, a lot of you guys just starting off should probably read the first one called Your Next 5 Moves, because that's about strategizing and putting your plan together. And then Choose Your Enemies Wisely is a little bit more about like, where do you stand in the market, right? And who are you not, right? So that's kind of where the first idea that I shared with you came from. So I just wanted to put that out there in case you want to read deeper into it, because you have an interesting place where you can kind of put yourself, right? You can be um, like an anti-hero, I guess, or not an anti-hero, like a hero, you know, but like anti what physical therapists are doing, or anti personal training, or, you know, just like I don't know how to phrase it, you know, maybe I didn't use the best words. um but it's just something you can read and look into. It's something that I applied, right? Like, I'll tell you guys how I applied it. I have a private gym that is opposite of a big public gym. Now that's obvious, but what I did is I leaned into it. And so I started leaning into the privacy that people could get working at our gym versus the not privacy, right? The very crowded public thing that is what they're used to. And so I just picked one enemy. My enemy was not the gym, my enemy was the crowd, right? It's crowded over here. It's not crowded here. Again, they have trainers, we have trainers. They do burpees, we can do burpees. You know, they have equipment, we have equipment. They're in the same town, I'm in the same town, right? Whatever the other similarities are, there's one thing that I cannot be and that they cannot be. And reading this book really made me lean into it, right? The one thing that I cannot be is a big crowded gym because it's private. And one thing that they could never be is a private gym, because that's not part of it's just impossible for them to function like that, just like it's impossible for me to fit 100 people in our studio. So because there's such a polarity there, I leaned into it. I said, "Hey, look at this. This is completely different. Impossible for them to do." Because if I leaned into the training, they could say, "Oh yeah, but that trainer's good too." "Oh, well, this one's near you, and that one's near me too." So I had to figure out, what is the one thing? What is it? And there's multiple things that we can do. So I'm just saying, if you read into this book, I hope that it'll get you thinking that way, right? What is it that you can lean into with your physical therapy background that someone else cannot lean into, because it would be the opposite of what they're saying, right? So, you know, I have some ideas. I'm not going to blurt them out. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but there's a lot of things that certain trainers, certain gyms, certain fitness styles, certain fitness concepts, there's certain fitness concepts out there that people are involved in that could not be what you are, right? And by having that background, there's certain things you could not be. So whenever you figure that out, you're going to be able to market yourself better. Okay, so those are just a couple of things that I wanted to mention today. The last note that I made after old people, I can't believe I almost skipped over this. Um, Education. I'll give you that last bit of like, how do you lean into some marketing for yourself? A lot of people want to learn. A lot of people are not getting trainers just for the workout. They want to be educated. So you, coming from a physical therapy background, you more likely than not, I'm making an assumption here, but more likely than not, you have a deeper understanding of muscles, movement patterns, range of motion, um, recovery, things like that. pivot points, like just little things, right? Biomechanics. Um, you may not have the same understanding of like different types of strength, the difference between power and hypertrophy, endurance training, right? Like now we're getting into more training concepts, because I want you to realize there's a lot that you need to learn outside of physical therapy. But one of the great things that you have in physical therapy is an understanding of these muscles, these movements, these patterns, these concepts. And it's not to say that trainers don't have them too. Again, being a trainer is kind of being a jack of all trades, for better or for worse. That's just kind of how you end up being. But what I wanted to say is you can also lean into educating people. Now, this is more part of your program, but people love to learn. So maybe you can get an idea there where you can say, "Hey, I will take the time to teach you." Right? This is a place for beginners to learn about movement. So just an idea. Again, because I'm assuming you have certain awareness and knowledge, you can kind of lean into that. Now, more specifically, how to market yourself, all of these ideas can be put on a flyer, they can be put on a postcard, and they can be put on a piece of content or an ad. So now the avenue you want to use, right? Because I haven't covered that, and in other questions people have sent me, sometimes I would like forget to tie it all together like that. But your avenue, that doesn't really matter. I gave you an idea. I said, hey, you can go to physical therapy places. You can now also, this is why I wanted to finish all the topics. You can go possibly to like senior living centers and offer a specialized training service that actually helps them and doesn't hurt them, right? Um, you can make videos and market them to the people that are worried about what you can help with, right? So again, that's why I had to establish all these ideas, because once you pick what your position is, right? Because that's the thing with marketing, you guys, you can't market if you don't have a position, right? So that's why I had to cover all of these things, because you have to figure out what my position is at least. And even if all of these are my position, I still have to start to kind of figure out how they tie together, how to make it sound good, how to make it look good, how to speak to someone. But you take a position, and only once you take a position can you know what to write on a postcard, on what to put on a flyer. How do you know what to say in a video if you don't know the position that you're taking? But once you choose the position, now you can make a script and talk about certain issues within that position, right? So if your position is safety, maybe you can make 5, 10 videos all talking about the importance of safety. And now you can turn that into an ad, maybe. Maybe people start following you because the same type of people that are concerned with safety are the same type of people that are going to gravitate to your content, right? So once you have the position, then you create the content. Then the people that need your service are going to find you because they know what they're looking for, right? It stands out. It makes sense. It's not just squats. It's squats because blank, blank, blank. It's squats adjusted because blank, blank, blank. Because I took a position. So now you can turn squats, talk about how squats should be done when you're older, how squats should be done to be safe, how squats are done with physical therapists, how squats are done with personal trainers, and how you add your own piece of knowledge to that information. So once you have that, boom, now you can start creating the content. But the content is just the message and the stance that you have taken in the fitness world. So you have to figure out your stance first, make sure that you can, fulfill on that stance, and then begin to create content, whether written or spoken or acted out or whatever, that is now leaning into that position that you've taken. Um, Instagram ads are great, but it's a risky move if you're going to spend money not being sure of what works. So one tool I could say is start making content. All right, pick your stance, pick who you're going to be in this world, right, of training. Create content around these areas. You can categorize it, right? Like you pick, this is what I would say, pick the 5 things that you stand for in your training, and then just pick an exercise or pick a movement or pick an idea or pick an opinion, and then come at it from the perspective of one of, if not all, the 5 points that you stand for. And so now you can do 5 on how a physical therapist sees squats, how a physical therapist sees shoulder presses, how a physical therapist turned trainer would do a squat versus a therapist versus a trainer. The third option is the one that you would provide, bridges the gap. So you can do a whole series on that. And then what I would say is, before you spend your money, if you want to promote, because you might be able to just get organic content. The thing with organic content, though, is sometimes you're getting it nationwide, and what you want is people that can access your training. So an ad helps you do that. It puts that content out specifically to people near you, so people can actually find you and come see you and pay you for your service. So what I would say as part of your strategy is do that for a while, get some followers, figure out your message, figure out your stance, and then whatever video is doing the best, maybe you just promote that video. Now you can pay for that one to be promoted to people near you. And now you know that video works because people are sharing it, people are following you, people are liking it, people are commenting positive things on it. So you know it's getting attention. You pick the one that you like the best, and you can now put that message out there. Or you can use that video as inspiration to make another video and say, okay, this topic hit right here. So I can either decide to make more content around that topic, or I can make a more professional scripted video and have it be an actual ad where I'm inviting them to come, right? Because a lot of content is not inviting people to click on your website or to call you. A lot of content is just content's sake. But once you figure out your message, once you figure out what people are gravitating to, now you can begin to hone in on that and now just add a couple of tweaks to it. Now you're going to say, hey, give me a call, go to my website, book a consultation. You know, I have this deal going on before the end of the month. You can tweak it, but at least you know that the message lands because it's been proven. Same thing for written copy, right? You can make coupons that you go and leave at local businesses and things like that. You can do that, but you still have to have a stance and who you are in order to know what to write on it, in order to know what pictures to put on it. Are you going to put a picture of a young person or old person? How you decide that is based on your stance and what makes the most sense. There's nothing wrong with a young person. There's nothing wrong with an old person being on your coupons or your flyers. But what's going to work best for what you've got going on, right? Who is it that you're speaking to? Are you going to put a picture of a 20-year-old and talk about safety and rehabilitation? They might not match, right? You also don't want to create a CrossFit flyer, let's say, with a 90-year-old on the cover. Now, maybe if the 90-year-old got in their best shape possible through CrossFit, maybe you have a before and after and it becomes an inspiration. But more likely than not, it's going to be a little bit more geared towards younger people. And on it can go. So again, the things we talked about today are just things I want you to think about so that you can decide what your angle is, what your stance is, which then is going to lead to you creating content around that stance. And then you can begin to put it out there into the world through possible paid avenues, right? But at the end of the day, my biggest piece of advice for someone, especially if you already quit your job, is spend all the time that you would have spent at your regular job, spend that time reading about marketing, because you're not going to learn everything from this one podcast. Read about marketing, read about sales, create content, and very important, because right now you have the time to do it. You don't want to sit on your hands all day. Make coupons of some type and just go door to door, go to local businesses, go to local physical therapy places, restaurants, healthy food places, whatever. You're going to get rejected a lot, but some people are going to take your flyers, leave them with them, hand it to people. For me, my number one thing is if you can hand them to people, even better. So maybe instead of just getting the agreement, hey, can I put these on your storefront? Maybe you can stand outside of the storefront and hand them to people coming into the store, right? So as people are leaving the physical therapy place, maybe you can hand them, maybe you can put them on their cars, right? But at least you know, hey, the people that are leaving physical therapy might actually be interested in what I do, which is not exactly the same thing. Again, do you ask for permission? Do you go across the street? There's little things that everybody has to kind of consider here, right? You don't want to be stealing or attempting to steal clients from someone else. They're going to catch on to that, and it's not going to be a good look for you and your reputation. Also, those clients are not going to respect you because you're a client thief. They're not dumb. They're not going to go, oh, this is great that you came and you stood in front of my personal training gym, passing out your personal training. Those clients, they're not going to jump ship. They're just going to look at you and be disgusted by the behavior, right? Because I've seen it. Many years ago, some gym, some corporate gym came and set up a table in the plaza where our gym was, and they were trying to get memberships for their gym. And you know what? Everybody that came to the gym said that they were all upset that they were there. They were like, "Can you believe these guys?" Whatever. I said, "Dan, don't worry about it. They won't be there long." I went and I talked to them, and it was all good. You know, they're also trying to sell, right? I've been there. Um, but the clients didn't get excited. The clients were upset because they're not dumb, you know? So be careful when you do stuff like that. But I'm just saying, you can put yourself out there with flyers. The beauty of flyers is that even though it's harder, even though it takes more effort, you usually get a faster return. When you're starting off, when you don't know how to create content, when you don't know how to make an ad, unless you really don't know how to sell or your product sucks or whatever. But one of the best things you can do is, if you have a little bit of personality and charisma and you know what your stance is and you know what the issues are, you know how to train, is just to hand coupons out to people in a parking lot, in a park, whatever. You know, that's not as important as contacting people in your neighborhood and saying, "Hey, I'm a personal trainer. These are my specialties. This is a coupon. I'm just giving them out to everybody in the neighborhood in case you want to come and check it out." If you do that for an entire day, somebody will show interest. That's the beauty of doing it. That even though, yes, it sucks to be standing out there, yes, it sucks to be talking to people and having them, reject you. The beauty is, and this is the part you guys, I don't know if you're understanding this. The beauty is that by the end of today, somebody will be interested in your service, and you can go home and say, "I got a potential client today," which is very hard to say when you're just making content. See, you make content for a month and you're like, "Oh man, nobody's called me yet." Yeah, because you're kind of just hoping, right? You're not good enough yet to make a message to make them come in. That takes time. So what you can do that's a lot more effective is to make sure that you go out into the real world, talk to as many people as possible, hand out as many coupons and flyers as possible, and just know that somebody will bite. You're going to cross paths with somebody that says, "Hey, I have been looking for a trainer," or "My trainer just moved out of town. I was looking for one. You know what? Give me your number. I might give you a call." It's very random. You know, you got to be careful what neighborhood you go into. You don't want to put yourself out there, by yourself on the street, right? So that you got to be careful with that. It's dangerous. Maybe the best thing to do. I never did this, but actually we did do it with Marshalls, right? We went in there and we asked for permission. I would say this, and I'll shut up after this, just because I'm trying to give you, sure, the video stuff works and everything like that, but something practical and you know why it's one of the most powerful tools? Because nobody does it. That's how you know it's powerful. Some people would say, nobody does that anymore. Who takes a flyer? That mindset is what all of your competition thinks. Just think about this. How hard is it for you to get up and go pass out flyers? It's very hard. So you remember that all of your competition is going through the same battle. If you can win that battle, you'll be the only one, and you'll put yourself ahead of them because they're still hoping for something to happen, right? You get sweat equity, you get out there, you do the work. But what I was going to say is, what we did is we went next door and we asked the manager of the Marshalls, right? So this is like a Ross, a TJ Maxx, right? It's a store that people go in and buy discounted clothing and other articles. So we went in, we asked for permission. We said, "Hey, can we set up a table outside your door?" They said, "Just not in front of the door, off to the side." So they gave us some ground rules. We said, "All right, thank you." We set up a table and we passed out flyers. And that's how we started, right? And when we didn't do that, we just went to people getting into their cars. Here's the thing though, we felt more comfortable because usually it was two of us, right? So that's one thing you can do if there's somebody else that wants to pass out flyers. So I'm going to give you a couple of things here. Maybe you find someone else that's also starting their business that maybe is tied to yours. So let's say you have a friend that is doing massage and you're doing personal training. Maybe you can go 50-50 on a flyer where one side is massage coupon and the other side is a personal training coupon. And now you can maybe, for an hour every day or for 3 hours every Monday or however you want to do it, you say, "Hey, why don't we invest in our business? We work together and we go out there, and at least we're not alone." Right? Because that's the one thing about passing flyers. I don't want you guys to just be out there on your own. So you find a buddy, you can work together. And now you're working double time because every flyer that they give is a flyer for you, and every flyer that you give is a flyer for them. You're actually each other's employee to a certain degree, and you're increasing the chance that either one of you will make business. So you can do it like that. It doesn't have to be the same flyer. Maybe it's a gift bag with a couple of things in it if you want to do that. Again, the creativity, I can't come up with all the answers for you, right? So think creatively about how you can work with someone else. And so you both go out there and you used to get up and go to your job. Now you get up and you go to your new job, which is to go with your friend or at least your counterpart. And every Monday we work for 3 hours, 5 hours, strictly passing out flyers. It's going to pay you back more in the long run than what you were doing with your job. Because as long as one person every time you go out there pays you what you're charging for your service now, you're going to start to kind of capitalize on that. And eventually you get referrals. Eventually you have traffic. Eventually you have better videos. Eventually you make a name for yourself. You're not always going to be out there, but in the beginning, it's a great tool. See if you can partner up with someone. Another great thing you can do is talk to a local business and just ask them for permission to set up outside of their shop. That way you have a connection to someone. So if someone comes in and they're rude or you feel uncomfortable, you can go in the shop, say, hey, I'm just going to hang out a little bit. Something's going on outside. I don't want to be out there. Right. And you have a relationship with them. You can also, I've talked about this a few episodes ago about just marketing ideas and stuff, but it kind of ties with this. If you have a relationship with someone, maybe you can offer them services for free or for discounted rate to allow you to market outside of their store. Right. So, let's say I have a flower shop. It's like, hey, I want personal training. It's like, hey, I'll personal train you twice a week. You said you want a trainer, and for twice a week, maybe you let me come out here 2 hours a week and set up shop outside of your flower shop, and maybe I can add a little flower coupon if you want to the people that sign up for training and say, hey, if you sign up for my training, you get 50% off your next flower purchase, right? And you can work with someone and say, is that okay? They get maybe one of your clients to come into the flower shop and you get some of the flower shop clients to come to you, right? Again, that's super random, the flowers and the training, but maybe you can do this with a vitamin shop, a supplement shop, a healthy food restaurant, um, a massage place, whatever, like you figure it out, right? But again, this is like footwork though. You got to get out there, and make these connections. Or maybe you could do it from the phone. You have a whole list of possible businesses. You start calling, say, hey, this is what I'm proposing. And you're going to get rejected. Again, part of business is being rejected. That's one of the big, roadblocks for most people in business is your business is going to work. But in order for your business idea to work, you have to get 20 people to say to tell you no, to say, hey, fuck off. And we as human beings are so emotional. Sometimes we're so soft that just one person saying no is enough for us to quit on our dreams. So the people that get to live this dream are people that want it bad enough that one no does not discourage them. One F off does not stop them from pursuing it. And so once you get through all of those no's, the dreams are for the people that can do it. But if you quit when someone says no, how do you know that the next supplement store wasn't going to say yes, but you didn't call them? Why? Because you let the first one tell you no and assume that the next one was also a no. So you can't function like that. So, just some ideas. I wanted to pack a little bit more into today's episode. Those are physical ideas. Obviously, the content, I already went over it. Pick your stance, talk about it, see what works. You can lean into that. But if you don't want to wait around for that, or also if you're done making content for the day, then get up off your butt and go talk to a local business. Print out some flyers, order some flyers, Vistaprint, super cheap. They'll be here in a week with your phone number. Maybe you hand out 50 today and nobody says yes, but next week they call. Was it still worth it? It was still worth it. You still got it. You just didn't get it in the moment. But the whole point is you got to start putting your name out there and you got to start putting your product, whatever that is, right? And that's what mostly today's episode was about for me was what is it that you're doing with this physical therapy background? Can you tie it into some new idea, create a very specific product for specific people? Because again, If you wanted to, you can take on some physical therapy clients. And if you wanted to, you can take on some just regular personal training clients. So you still have the flexibility to do both, but maybe you create a niche somewhere in the middle if you want, right? Again, I'm just trying to tie them both together. If not, all of this still applies if you were starting a physical therapy practice or if you were starting your own private personal training practice. All of these things still apply. They're all things that all of you guys still need to consider and apply in your own personal training businesses and careers. So this ties to everybody. All right, you guys, thanks for hanging out. Make sure you go to personaltrainerhustle.com. The link is in the description of the episode. I always put it on there. If you guys want to go to the shop and pick up a PT uniform, if you guys want to go to personaltrainerhustle.com and just send in your own questions so that we can do this with your question, that's up there as well. And if you guys want to, a lot of you guys have already gone over and supported the YouTube. We started YouTube at episode 100. Anything before episode 100 is just on the audio only podcast platforms. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, things like that. That's where you find 1 through 99. Obviously, you can find all of them there, but the YouTube only started at episode 100. So a lot of you guys, I appreciate you guys because you've gone over and just supported. I know you guys don't have to do that. You've been listening for a while now, but I appreciate the support because it kind of starts getting the ball rolling with the YouTube. Obviously, you know, not everybody wants to stare at this mug right here. So however you guys want to do it, all that matters is that the information is getting out there and that you guys are improving in some area of your personal training career because we did an episode. That's really all that matters. How you get the information, I don't really care if it's on YouTube or a podcast platform. What matters is that you're listening to it and you're trying your best to apply it so that you can reap the benefits of that information, right? If you're not applying it, then there's no point in listening. So make sure you go out there, try your best. I know it's hard to apply everything, figure out what we're going to do, but if you try just a little bit at a time, you know, for a lot of you guys that just started listening, you can go back to episode 1, start all the way through. We've gone over so many different lessons in personal training sales, consultations, career. We've talked to other personal trainers that have started their own businesses. So, which is something I want to do soon again. I've gotten away from that because we've gotten a lot of questions lately. So for those of you guys that are new, you know, it probably almost seems like it's a question and answer show only, but that's really just because as we've grown in listenership, we just get more and more questions. And I don't want to leave everyone waiting too long. So I do like an episode about a lesson and then a question and another episode and then a question. So that's why we got a lot of questions, but I love the questions. And I've gotten good feedback from them, from you guys. When you guys send in your questions, you say, hey, I picked something else up from another question someone sent in. So let's keep it going. Send in your questions. But we got to also get back, talk to some trainers as well. And then just do regular day-to-day lessons. You know, there's always something we can be learning. So thank you guys for listening. Personaltrainerhustle.com. All the information is there. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.